Hey, what's up, everybody? I'm Eric Basek. I'm the owner of Simple Disciplines Coaching, and I'm here today to talk to you about staffing. By the way, I have nothing to sell. So if you just want to hear my thoughts about staffing and something that happened to me yesterday and may be applicable to your business, then watch or listen on. The illusion of communication is that it has taken place. This is a great quote. Don't remember who said it. You can Google it. It's not really important, but it is a really important quote. And with some of the businesses that I work with, probably the number one conversation that comes up after how do I stop losing money, how do I make money, is how do I get a better staff, or how do I get a staff, how do I hire, how do I fire, how do I deal with person A, B, or C who is causing problems within my business, some version of like a staffing problem. And I just want to share something that happened with me yesterday, because I think that I have come a long way since I started my gym, and how I am as a leader and how I am with my staff. And I think it'll be of some value. And the first thing I want to preface this with is I am not the hero of my own story. I've made many mistakes, and even with this specific example, I believe there are things that I could have done better. And some of them I know, and some of them I don't know. And I'll share looking in hindsight how I could have done this better. But here's the short version, the shortest version I can share, so you get the most out of this without wasting too much of your day. I had a conversation with a female. This female wants to coach at my gym. And some of my staff members were, they shared some of their potential reservations. Now, this is not a knock on this particular person. However, if this person was watching and knew I was talking about them, they might be like, man, I'm being attacked again. This is not a knock on this person. We have reservations about everybody, don't we? I mean, if you're a business owner and this business pays for your dinner, and this business pays for your mortgage, and this business pays for other people's mortgages, you're nervous. You're worried about hiring the wrong person. And so you have reservations because you're thinking about all the potential faults that this person has, and you want to make sure they're a good fit for your business. What are the pros and cons, right? I hire somebody straight out of college. What's the pros? Well, they're probably cheap. They're also young, and they may have a lot of energy, and they may want to work hard. What are the cons? Well, they don't have a lot of experience, and I'm going to have to train them, and they may use me as a stepping stone to leave my business. So everybody has pros and cons. And when I say that my staff talked about reservations we had about this person, it's not a knock on this person. It's just any new person that comes into my business, there are potential reservations. And so I had a conversation with this person, and I laid out a few things. And could I have done a better job communicating with this person so as not to make them feel so threatened or attacked? Possibly. I'm going to say probably. But the short story is, at the end of the conversation, they felt a little attacked. Now, my goal was to lay some things out, was to draw a line in the sand. I expect A, B, and C from you as a potential employee in my business. And we can have a whole nother video about how I hire CrossFit coaches and Krav Maga coaches and how I train them and intern them. But when you're joining my staff, I set a line, and you've got to meet these standards. So you got to read a book. You got to write a short summary of that book. You've got to participate in constructive feedback sessions. You got to hit minimum numbers as far as coaching per week and per month and things like that. And when she left that conversation, I thought the conversation was over, but it wasn't for her. And what we discovered later on, 2 months later, is that she had complained about that conversation and ultimately about me to at least 2 other people who are staff members. Now, side note, I have to have a separate conversation with those staff members and find out why they didn't talk to me. Maybe they were protecting me and they were like, oh, this isn't important. I don't need to bring this to Eric's attention because I don't want to stress him out. That'd be great. Maybe they thought that this staff member just needed to air out her complaints and it wasn't going to go anywhere else. And so it wasn't necessary to raise it a level higher, and that would be great. Or maybe they just didn't want to have the conversation with me, and that would be bad. And we have to talk about that, because we business owners, we need to create a culture in our business and in our company where we say the things that people normally say behind somebody else's back to each other. The conversation that needs to take place is the conversation you have behind somebody's back. That's all of the information that person needs to hear in order to get better. We'll come back to that. So 2 months passed, and this person had conversations with other staff members, and they were something like, why should I have to prove myself? And why wouldn't you believe that I would do what you're asking me to do? If you say, do this, I will do it. If you don't want me, just say so. I'm being set up for failure. This is the gist of the thoughts that she had. Now, there are 2 really terrible things that people have. All people have: egos and insecurities. Insecurities are fear. I got tons of insecurities. I'm still running away from the fat kid I was when I was a kid. I literally just graduated the military. I graduated the Coast Guard. And my first thought after I graduated was, wow, but it's just the Coast Guard. Like, I couldn't even be proud for a moment because it's the Coast Guard. And so I have insecurities. And insecurities are bad, but we can work on them and we can grow from them. And the good thing about insecurities is they're not really like a cancer. Ego is like a cancer. Ego is, I'm too good for this. Why should I have to prove myself? And ego collects little cancer buddies. And those are like other staff members and other people that they talk to and their neighbors and their friends. And then they all get together and have this negative poo-poo party talking about how they hate person A or thing A or product A. And they all get together and they stew in their negativity. Ego is a cancer that needs to be removed from the business. And if you can't train it out of somebody, then that person needs to be removed. And so the larger question I'm asking is, how do you create this culture, Eric? You've got to have those difficult conversations. You've got to recognize those things, and you have to deal with them immediately. Ego is the need to defend oneself. Hey, I was watching you teach class the other day, and I think you should have done this. Well, the reason I didn't do that is because, right? You don't need to defend yourself if the person who's giving you feedback wants you to get better. And if you want to get better, there's no need to defend yourself. Ego is dangerous. Ego talks shit. Insecurity is more timid, okay? The things you say behind someone's back are the things that you should say in front of them. Now, delivery and execution. We can all get better. We can all get better at our delivery. Communication is difficult. There are many, many books written about this. The best one ever written of all time is How to Win Friends and Influence People, which is why it's the first book that I recommend my staff read. Okay? How to Win Friends and Influence People. Get that book and read it if you haven't done it. Delivery and execution. Here's something I learned yesterday from my interaction from an employee who was participating in this interaction. I'm sorry you feel that way is something that I said during this conversation. His suggestion was, why don't you try, I'm sorry my actions caused you to feel this way. What this does is take extreme ownership, right? This is Jocko's concept. And instead of putting the blame on the other person for feeling that way, I'm sorry you feel this way, I'm putting the blame on me. I'm sorry what I did made you feel this way. So I am justifying their feelings and taking the blame or the fault for their feelings on how I acted. This will only garner their respect or support, hopefully, likely, versus saying, I'm sorry you feel this way, and them still feeling like, well, he doesn't understand. I mean, he says he's sorry, but is he really? So that's something that I learned yesterday from this. But speaking of criticism, another great book. Thank you for the feedback. There are 3 ways to deliver criticism. And the curious thing is, which one does the actual person want? And do you care? Now, as the owner of a business, somebody trying to make my CrossFit coaches better, I'm going to give the 3rd version of criticism most often. So the first version is approval and affirmation. This is what most people actually want. So think about it. When you teach a class and you go up to a coworker of yours and you're like, hey, how was my class? What you're really asking is for them to, or what you're really hoping is for them to be like, oh, your class was amazing. It was awesome. Best class I ever took. I have no feedback. That's what you're hoping. But that's not what you really need. What you need is for them to say, well, when you got to the announcements, I noticed that you were looking only at the board and not at the people, or you only mentioned one person, or you only looked at one half of the room and not the other half of the room. Because if you actually get critical feedback that can make you a better coach, then you become a better coach. But most people want the first type of feedback, which is approval and affirmation. The second type of feedback is standing and ranking. So, hey, I think you're like the 3rd or 4th best coach in my pool of coaches. In order for you to become the best coach, you need to do A, B, C, D, and E. That's great if you're up for promotion or up for advancement, and you need to know what to do to make yourself better. The 3rd form of criticism is an actual critique for improvement. I need you to do this in order to get better. Okay? Most people don't want that. Most people can't listen to it. And most people need to defend their actions upon hearing it. In fact, how many times have you received criticism and before that other person finished their criticism, you were already thinking of your rebuttal? Now, here's the catch-22. It's on the receiver, not the deliverer. If you want to be the best version of yourself, it's up to you to actually listen to what's being said and improve. The catch-22, or the caveat, is that if you're a business owner and you're a leader, it's also up to you to learn to deliver feedback in a way that's palatable, to deliver feedback in a way that the person will actually be receptive to. Because if they're not receptive to it, it doesn't matter how good your feedback is, they're not going to get better. So it's a chicken or the egg, but you both need to get better. Now, how do you do that? You've got to create the culture that exists, that perpetuates this. You have to create a culture where people want feedback and better, even if it's difficult to hear, and where you are working on how to deliver that feedback so that it is most palatable to the people that you are giving it to. This is extreme ownership, and this is how you both get better. Culture is the goal. Here is a tactical thing that you can do. Here's a game. It's called the hot seat. You get 5 of your staff members together, one person in the middle, and you offer feedback on a topic. You say, hey, Brian, you could do this better when you teach. The only one of two things that person can say back to you is thank you or please clarify. They cannot say anything else. Hey, I think your hair should be blue. Thanks. Or could you please clarify? You are not allowed to say anything else. This is a great game or drill or whatever you want to call it, to create the culture where your staff is accepting of feedback and in fact even used to it and looks forward to it so that they can get better. You're trying to create an environment that is safe for them to become vulnerable. Okay? Second thing you do is meetings. The more meetings you have where you discuss this kind of thing and make this a common place where you talk about each other's faults and failures with the goal of getting better so they're safe and being vulnerable, the more you do that in your meetings and your interactions, the better. You can constantly evaluate each other in class. How often are you as an owner critiquing your coaches? Do you have a formal way of critiquing them? Do you have a sheet where you literally warm up, skill building, workout, class management, time management, space management? How often are you evaluating your own staff? And don't say you don't have time. I understand it's possible you don't have time. And we all have to work on a priority list. But this is really important because you're never going to get that culture and your staff is never going to deliver a wonderful product. Without the wonderful product, you can't charge what it's worth. If you can't charge what it's worth, it's this really terrible cycle where you're just not going to make enough money and you're not going to be able to grow. And if you can't grow, then one day you're going to sell the business or the business is going to collapse. Okay. And the last thing you can do is lead by example. Take feedback. Ask for feedback. Don't just hope that you get affirmations as the owner. Just because you're the owner doesn't mean you're the best coach. Just because you're the owner doesn't mean that you're the best instructor. Just because you're the owner doesn't mean that you know everything. Allow yourself to be vulnerable. The last thing I'm going to say, because I've been talking 12 minutes, is this is a never-ending process. It's a never-ending process to learn to develop empathy and to grow your skill for your reservoir for empathy. It's a never-ending process to improve your communication skills. It's a never-ending process not only to improve your empathy and communication skills, but to teach empathy, communication skills, and reception to criticism among your staff. We must remove people who do not adapt. If they are not willing to adapt, if they are not willing to grow, you must remove them. Rip the Band-Aid off. We can stop some of this by preventing them from getting into the business. So draw a line in the sand, have that uncomfortable conversation, set the bar, and when that person says something like, well, why should I have to improve myself? What you're hoping they're going to say is, wow, I get to prove myself. I can't wait. I can't wait to show John how good a coach I am. He doesn't think I'm that great. I'm going to show him with a positive mindset and attitude. It's a very different way to respond to somebody setting that bar. It is the hardest to do this with people you have a relationship with. So if you're an owner and your wife works with you or your kids work with you, it's very hard for you to do this. And so that is a challenge that you're just going to have to deal with, or perhaps give some of the responsibility of critiquing that person to another staff member that's trusted and loved and appreciated and respected by that family member. So that's it. That's all I got for you guys. 14 minutes, way too fucking long. I'm sorry I spoke so long, but I hope some of this is valuable to you. If you have any questions, please leave them. If you have comments, please leave those comments. And if you have something that you want me to speak about in another video, please send me a message so I can talk about it. And if I have something of value to add, I will certainly try. All right, guys. See you all later. Thanks for watching. Bye.